Hey, we're talking with Bill Ardolino, who is kind enough to use his cell phone since we couldn't get another connection together. How you doing, Bill?
Good. Well.
So I guess you told me you've been in Fallujah for 3 days after traveling, what was it, 3, 4, 5 almost?
I felt boring running together. I'm not really sure. 2 days, yeah.
Too many times sitting on too many thin benches trying to get a rack, some sleep time, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just starting to get normalized with my sleep schedule.
Right on. Well, now you said you're with the Marines. It's a civil affairs unit.
Yeah, I've been embedded with the Civil Affairs Unit for almost 3 days, participating in what's called Operation Alja, which just ended today. And what Operation Alja is, it's an operation that the Iraqi police and the Marines came up with to subdivide the city of Fallujah into 10 local precincts. And what they do during this is called the swarm, when they form a new precinct. They just finished up the whole precinct. And what they do is they go in, they set up the precinct location, they announce to the populace that they're doing it, they recruit Fallujah Neighborhood Watch for that precinct, which is basically males who are 18 to 35 years old, and they become they get a t-shirt with a number on it, and they become junior cops who work under the Iraqi police. They carry a weapon, they report suspicious activity, they man checkpoints, and basically just look out for the security of the neighborhood. The other aspect of it is the Marines and Iraqi police, and they try to put an Iraqi police face on it, go up into the neighborhood, the specific neighborhood, hand out food bags and soccer balls, and talk with residents. They let them know about the precinct, and it's pretty interesting. They also do they engage the militias, what are called militias, which are traditional cultural leaders in Fallujah who are responsible for 2 to 3 city blocks, and basically are representative local leaders who represent the people and talk with the Marines and the Iraqi police about the basic civil infrastructure services that they're lacking, like water, sewer, power, and they work with the Marines and police to try to address those problems.
Now, do the commanders there, do they have reconstruction money available for small projects?
They do. There's a lot of reconstruction money right now through CERT funds that are basically attacking all the basic needs, the water, the power, the sewer, and they also hand out small business loans.
Is that through the U.S. funds? Is it through the State Department? Is it through the military? Who's actually running the funding?
There are CERT funds, CERP funds, that are the U.S. military civil affairs units hand out, and then USAID is also there that hands out private funds to fund private projects. CERP is specifically for government-related projects.
So that's more infrastructure, electricity, all the water and sewage, like you mentioned.
Right. But the private and the public sources of funding are working together right now.
Holy cow, that's new, huh?
Yeah. It was. I believe I could be wrong here, but I seem to recall in January that they had just started to get the private folks on board, and now, from what I understand, it's in full swing.
Fantastic. Well, look, Bill, I don't want to keep you, on your cell phone too long here. We greatly appreciate you checking in, but I want to make sure to get the message out because obviously, we're running up to General Petraeus and Ambassador Crocker's testimony, and so it's great to have you in country, letting us know that Fallujah, which used to be probably the worst word, to say about Iraq, is now someplace where we're fixing things we broke.
Well, I mean, I'm writing up a few pieces on I haven't had a lot of writing opportunities yet because I've been on a constant mission, but I can say this. I just found out today that when I was here in January, that was about the peak violence that Fallujah had ever had, of course excluding the second invasion of Fallujah, with around 750 plus attacks per day in December 2006 and around 650 in January 2007. And that number, and I, this incident is known, if anything, attacks, CVs, hoax IEDs, any of those things constitute the incident, small arms fire, or whatever else. Now, this last month it was down to 7, from a peak of 750. And, you know, when I was here, there were a lot of things blowing up. There was a lot of gunfire. There were a lot of people getting killed in January. And I was actually out and about during the day in the city today, meeting and greeting with the local population, you know, playing with kids, handing out food bags, and just basically a change from what I saw at the height of Fallujah. It's absolutely remarkable. It's a counterinsurgency success.
Right on. Well, Bill, that's fantastic to hear, and it is fantastic to hear it direct from you on the ground, buddy. Hey, blue skies to you and all the civil affairs Marines. Good luck. Call us again whenever you can, and we will push the word out to everybody we can.
All right.
Nice talking to you, brother. Crank this up again. Well, hey, Bill, all right, we talked a little bit about some of the, I guess, the civil affairs, neighborhood watch, reconstruction type stuff. And you had mentioned that the security situation compared to the last time you were there, December and January of this year, was considerably better. What about the political side of things? Do the local folks there have any thoughts on the national politics?
Well, yeah, it's interesting. There are signs of hope and there are signs of despair. The signs of despair are, you know, you talk to people around here and they're not, you know, what move cars and, you know, the man on the streets and the cops. And they don't have a very high opinion of the national government under Nazi. And they don't seem too positive about what's going to, you know, transmit that. And also not getting a lot of money from the national government and the logistics that they usually get. Fallujah is, Iraq as a whole, under Saddam, was a socialist state. So basically, food, everything from food to fuel to everything is nationalized. You know, so they depend on handouts from the government traditionally. And it's a little bit of a challenge to try to work them away from that a little bit and actually work within that traditional system to try to get people what they need. On the positive side, you know, there are signs of, there's a definite willingness to be part of Iraq and to keep Iraq whole. They just want to have, you know, power brokers that they can work with in the national government, whether they be Shiite or Sunni or whatever, who are more concerned for Iraq than, well, Iraq, to be honest with you.
So
But
do you think...
there are some signs of progress. The national government, just speaking to another reporter who told me that Maliki just pledged a bunch of money for Andar. You know, we'll see if he follows through on that. And that's what's going to be, you know, there are going to be two components that are going to determine whether or not this momentum, the security momentum, which is pivotal, is a huge positive development, can actually push on through and get reconciliation, I guess, if you want to call it, with Andor and the rest of the government. And that's basically whether or not they're going to get more resources from the national government, also whether or not they can redevelop their industrial sector and get their local economy really kicking here. And then probably the third thing would be the provincial elections, which are coming up, because the Sunnis who, you know, the people who represent the Sunni bloc of Iraq, who are in the national government now, don't really represent the Sunnis that well, because most of the real representatives of the Sunnis sat out for elections in 2005.
And when are those scheduled for, the next ones?
You know what, I know they're upcoming, I don't know the exact date, but it's this year. I know Maliki is pushing to sort of speed up the timetable on the provincial elections to actually engage, you know, the real Sunni politicians, the real Sunni leadership in the government, provincial government, and then hence the national government.
Well, now, did it help at all when President Bush came and actually had Maliki come out to Anbar? Did that make any kind of a significant impact as far as at least, having the folks believe that the national government is thinking about them?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, it's still there.
Okay, sorry. It's too soon. It's too soon to say. That hasn't filtered down to the man on the street, or hasn't been a big issue with the man on the street. I was at a Fallujah City Council meeting where generals showed up and as a representative of the national government and said that he met with President Bush and was basically flying the flag, saying, we met with President Bush and Maliki, and there's going to be some positive things happening. So there are some olive branches being extended. The real question, though, is on the follow-through. So that's the only time will tell.
Now, do they feel, I guess, that given that most of the representation and most of the officials in the national government are Shia, do they feel that that's the main reason why they haven't been getting, their fair share of any of the largesse, the food, the electricity, the things that should be coming from the central government? Do they still feel that's a sectarian thing?
Yeah, well, let's be clear here. Everybody boils it down to Sunni versus Shia or whatever, and that is a big part of it. But there are Sunnis here who don't necessarily care about the Shia moniker per se. They just don't like the Shia who they perceive as being Iranian puppets. So,
okay.
For example, the Iraqi Army general, I can't remember his name, who was working here until recently. The Iraqi Army just pulled out because the security situation improved so well that they could hand it over to the police. He's a former Iraqi Army general with a lot of experience in the current Iraqi Army general, and he's Shia, and he worked wonderfully with the Sunni police chief. So, and I also just was speaking to a Sunni police captain here who talked about a new sort of militia, is sort of a dirty word, but that's sort of what you want to call it, a new organization called the Sheikhs of Iraq, which is, and this is just from his mouth, but supposedly is made up of both Sunni and Shia sheikhs, and he's basically trying to form a new sort of political and civic organization that counterbalances what they perceive as organizations that are hopelessly sectarian or they feel are compromised by Iran. Some of the militias and organizations are indeed compromised by Iran, but there's probably a perception that some of them, that all of them are, or a lot more of them are, than really are.
Well, that report from General Jones seemed to think that the police, for sure, were hopelessly infiltrated with militias, and I mean even recommended disbanding them. I hope that's not getting any play over there.
Well, no, you're going to be, once again, you got to distinguish. That's the national police, okay? So there's national police, and then there's police that represent sort of localities. And the Sunni police out here are sort of, it's all under the Ministry of Interior, ostensibly, but the Sunni police over here are, just cops. They're like I said, the word militia is a dirty word, but over here they're basically representing their local interests in the security situation fairly well. So that's just a different situation than, let's say, police in Baghdad.
Bill, it kind of feels to me, and I don't know whether you would share this opinion, but we spent a whole lot of time, effort, and energy trying to push a top-down solution, a national unity government on a bunch of people who hadn't even, at that point, figured out who they were still mad at. And now there seems to be a lot of grassroots, smaller, lower-level efforts that are doing the same thing, without us being the dominant force. Is that a trend you think that could be sustained?
Well, yeah, I think that, there's some effort go government. But, the ground up stuff is very important. I think you hesitate to say it because you don't want to be trying to kick the football here. But I have a positive feeling about what's going on in Anbar. as far as just seeing how counterinsurgencies work, seeing how the local population start to stand up and start to get interested in, hey, we just want peace, we just want to go about our life, we want to get, kick the people out, blow stuff off. Some of the people who used to vote are now pushing up, rubble and joining the neighborhood watch for money instead of planting IND for $20. And I think it was powerful, and hopefully, parlay it into, I guess, what everybody's calling national reconciliation. But once again, only time will tell. I will say that the problem with the debate in Washington, besides the fact that people like Chuck Schumer putting out opinions that are absolutely wrong.
I kicked him in the nads yesterday, just so you know.
Well, I'll detour to that for a second here. What he's completely wrong about, and what individual senior cops will tell you, that told me yesterday, and local Fallujah citizens who are joining the neighborhood watch, when you say to them, hey, what changed the security situation here? The picketing, yes, the police got stronger, but the key to the police getting stronger was the Marines projecting their back, because life here was so valued as a police officer in the world, I'm sure of it. It showed that tonight that the citizens were afraid to basically bet on or become police or work for police because they were so weak. And the thing that made the police strong, in addition to the rise of charismatic local leadership, finally, both Marines have been pivotal to what happened. And it's been pivotal to the awakenings and everything going on in Ambo with American firepower backing up the local police forces. So, I'm going to say that the Marines are responsible for everything because the locals have. It basically comes down to the locals standing up and fighting for peace and to kick out bad and everything. But without Marine support, it just wouldn't have happened.
Well, there you go. I'm a little late to the game, but we finally decided that in an insurgency, perhaps a counterinsurgency strategy might be the way to go. Huh? Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, and I got a piece that I'm going to be writing up and talking about, how the counterinsurgency worked here, and it's just, I've seen with my own eyes how devastated this and violent this city was before, and how it's changed. And knock on wood, it will continue. But I really get the feeling that the security momentum has reached a tipping point to where if somebody wanted to come in here and commit insurgency tactics in Fallujah, we're going to have a really, really hard time with it.
That was the key all along, dude. An insurgency has to swim with the people like fishes in the sea. I think that was Mao. And if the people turn against them, they can't survive.
And counterinsurgency, everybody says, you can't do one pillar without the other. It's true. Security is number one, okay, because more security flows from initial security, and then the other pillars as far as reconstituting the basic services are huge, because once the people start to see the positive impact, they say, hey, this isn't so bad, Al-Qaeda came, promised a bunch of stuff and couldn't deliver anything except violence and mayhem. And then when all of a sudden they get the message that, hey, these Americans just want to kind of help us out a little bit, and they'll be going soon, and we're glad about that. But until then, they're getting our power up and our water up, and the people start to see the positive benefits. It really makes a huge impact and really brings people over to start reporting IED and suspicious activity.
So
right now in Fallujah, it's interesting. It was like they were getting 2 to 3 hours of electricity a day, and now they're up depending between 10 and 14, which that tells you is kind of how it was pre-invasion, So they're starting to see these differences, and they like it, and they would much rather have air conditioning and power to flush their toilets rather than having stuff blow up.
So Al-Qaeda wasn't busy building hospitals and building power plants or anything, were they?
no, they weren't. And it's interesting because, you know, when I was here before, I was wondering, you know, where's all the reconstruction? You know, why is civil affairs falling down on the job? And I basically asked a bunch of Marines on that. Why did you just start focusing on the pivotal services now? It seems like that should have been something you were doing before. And basically, what they tell me is they did do it before. They did it in 2005, but as soon as they would fix anything or do any major infrastructure project, Al-Qaeda would blow everything up. So that's the counterinsurgency is establishing the security. And once you get the security up to a certain level, then they learn their lesson. Now they're willing to reinvest in Fallujah and bet on Fallujah, you know, that they're going to be able to set up these services and they're just not going to be destroyed by terrorists.
Boy, it sounds so simple that it kills me to think that we're just at this point right now, because I guess my impression all along was that we were following some sort of strategy that focused at the local level, and we obviously weren't. And fortunately, I guess, you know, you catch your mistake, and hopefully we caught it in time. But it sounds like at least the groundwork's laid.
You know, some of the ways we have to say, you know, we made mistakes. It didn't have to be as bad as it was. But at the same time, part of, you know, the way I feel about it is, you know, circumstances have also kind of come together at this point. I'm sure it didn't have to be as bad as it was, but, you know, Al-Qaeda wearing out their welcome, you know, was sort of a process as well. So, you know, definitely there was a failure in the early strategy. I'll give you an example. We didn't work with the sheiks initially, and you know that's a huge oversight because they are the traditional. Sheiks aren't as important in the city of Fallujah proper, but the areas around Fallujah were very important, and the rest of the Anbar were very important. And so the failure to work with the sheiks as the power centers in this province was really a pretty huge oversight. In Fallujah itself, the Muqtars, the local neighborhood leaders, these are the guys that we wanted to be awarding the contracts to, and an error that was made was we were awarding contracts to a few central contractors who were corrupt and were not recommending the types of projects that the people were wanting and needed. So, but they've adjusted right now, and it seems like, you know, the impression I get, again, knock on wood, is that we're firing on all cylinders here as far as the momentum for you know, getting services up and getting the population on our side and actually improving life for Fallujahs in both the security arena and things as simple as, you know, getting gasoline to power your generator that was just fixed so that you can have some electricity.
Right on. I mean, the simplest things. It's amazing to think that we were trying to build a national culture before we made sure that people had basic services. You know, I don't want to second guess. What I'd like to do now is just hope we continue. And what we'll do, Bill, is I appreciate your reporting from the ground. We will fight the battle back here. You know, I'm heading to D.C. Be there on the 15th, and so we'll be there for the rallies. We'll be there for a chance to talk to Congress, and I'm going to tell them something a little bit about what you told me.
Well, and I'll tell you one of the little last things. One of the things the negative things that's going on with our domestic politics, and I have no doubt that there are well-intentioned people on both sides of the aisles and both sides of the issue on Iraq, but I wish they'd spend a little bit more time here just because what our domestic political debate does, where people are saying America needs a flawed amendment, is the political process that everybody's saying is broken. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because what the Iraqis are doing, or at least some of the Iraqis are doing, is jockeying for what they think is going to come next after the Americans leave, rather than sitting down and saying, okay, the Americans are going to be here a while, they're going to make this settlement. And so it sort of disrupts the process a little bit, so the national political reconciliation that everybody wants and that Iraq ultimately needs.
Sad to hear that, and I will make a point of reminding some of these people that they don't operate in a vacuum. You know, I mean, you can stand here and try to score political points in the U.S. and further your party's ambitions, but those actions, like you said, have a direct effect on what's going on with our efforts in Iraq, and it's kind of unconscionable, so I will mention it to them for you.
Yeah, when you're down there, tell Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden to call me.
Right on. I will see what they say. Well, Bill, fantastic talking to you, dude. Check in with me whenever, and we will try to get the message out. But yeah, hopefully we can get the other Bill, Roggio, in country and start talking to you folks on a daily basis.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks again, man, and blue skies to you and all the Marines.
All right.
Bye-bye.